McCoy could feel this last explosion reverberating in his bones, his gut. He was swimming harder than he'd ever swum in his life, trying desperately to flee the ship as she plummeted to the bottom of the sea. As he swam, he felt something reach out and grab his left leg and tug off his shoe. Then he jerked him backward in his swimming stroke, pulling him underwater, dragging him deeper and deeper. The last thing he remembered before blacking out was the rush of water past his face and the sensation that his eyes were ready to pop under the increasing pressure. When he snapped back to consciousness, he found himself shooting to the surface at great speed, like a man in an express elevator. He was not in an elevator, though. He was an air bubble, a huge one, and its dry jaws were clamped around the lower half of his body, leaving his head and shoulders sticking out as he rocketed upward. He erupted with such force that he rose 3 feet out of the water with a splash. He fell back into a black world of screaming men. All around him, the sea was littered with crates of potatoes, ammunition cans, stray life vests, and dead bodies. He looked around and knew he had one decision to make. Am I going to live, or will I die? That's page 137 of In Harm's Way by Doug Stanton. It's the true first-person account of the sinking of the USS Indianapolis and the extraordinary story of its survivors. If you're not familiar with Indianapolis, it is a terrifying story. You can't make stuff up like this. The USS Indianapolis, if you're familiar with the first Jaws movie, when the old sea captain, they've all had a little bit to drink, they're comparing scars, and he says that he was on the Indianapolis. And he gives a brief explanation of the ship when it went down. The Indianapolis was the ship that was tasked with taking the 2 atomic bombs, Fat Boy and Little Man, I think they were, over to the island so they could be flown over Hiroshima and Nagasaki back in World War II. Well, of course, that is such a super secret deal going on. They were under strict orders of radio silence. Well, they were successful. They dropped off the weapons. And on their way back, they were spotted, tracked, and then sunk by a Japanese submarine. And that's pretty much where the story really kicks off in the book. And it's their tales of survival. And they weren't just out in the water for a day or two. They were out there for a long time. I don't remember exactly. It's been a few years since I read that book. But the trials and tribulations they go through, the things they witness, were pretty amazing. And dealing with the sharks. And that will terrify you if you've never been in the water, or even if you have and you've been around sharks, something like that can scare you. Especially if you're a sailor, whether you're in the Navy or just pleasure cruiser. Ship goes down, you have a lot of things to concern yourself about. That's not what this video is about. This video is about books. I really like books. I'm not a hardcore bookworm. I lean more towards history, especially World War II, because I think those guys that went out there being 17, 16 years old, yes, they weren't supposed to be out there at that age, but they got out there and on up doing amazing things in horrible conditions. Like anyone else in any war, but especially that era. Something about it just really sings to me, as well as many other people out there. I prefer to read real books. And what I mean by real books is paper, in hand. I've tried reading books on e-readers, tablets, computers, my cell phone. I just can't get into it. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned like that, but I love having the book in my hand and reading it. Of course, it sucks if you're laying in bed and you have the book held above you and you fall asleep and that book smacks you right in the face. Yeah, it's a little embarrassing. I just want to say, don't give up on books. They're so important. What happens if the power goes out? Your battery dies, you can't read your book anymore. And given the current weather that's been going on here lately, it might be good to go out and get yourself a couple of good books, just in case. There's other stuff you should prep for, but think about your mind as well. One of my favorite books of all time, of course, In Harm's Way, right here, The Pacific by Hugh Ambrose. That's the son of, I forget his dad's name, the other Ambrose. Great researchers, great book writers. They get into the details and they really bring out the story of those that were actually there. That's their focus, especially Hugh Ambrose. The Pacific, if you have not read the book, you've probably seen the miniseries. It was on HBO, I believe. The miniseries was pretty good. I didn't think it was that great. The book, however, was amazing. An outstanding book. The one before that I like would have to probably be Band of Brothers, which, that's an awesome freaking miniseries, Band of Brothers. I don't just read that. I got cookbooks, like Anthony Bourdain. I love his books. And some of the books he's written that are like fiction. Those are funny. I like History of the Americas. People's History of the United States, a great book by Howard Zinn. That's not the stuff they teach you in school. Good little primer to get you started. Fyodor Dostoevsky. I like Crime and Punishment. What else do I got? Oh, I got The House of the Dead. Read almost all of his stuff. I like his style. You can really get into it. It's kind of hard like a Stephen King, who I never really got into. Except I love The Mist. Great short story. The TV, or the movie adaptation was pretty good too. This is just pretty much the books I've held on to over the years. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of share that. I have no idea how long this video is, but I hope you enjoy it. I might even start reading books to you guys. Might even make a separate channel for that. Maybe, maybe not. Oh, one other book. One of my favorite movies too, Jarhead, by Anthony Swofford. This is the book he wrote. It's actually a really good book. The movie's really good too, but the book is really good. If not as good, if not better than the movie. So if you like the movie, go get the book. It's not that big at all. It's not that long book. Kind of, at the end of the book, you want more, basically. I think he could have gone on for twice as long and still would have read it. Well, thanks for watching. You guys have a great day. And stay warm.